Welcome to another segment of Live from Forum 2022. I'm your host, Ron Painter. We are live at Forum 2022, powered by the National Association of Workforce Boards. We've got some great conversations, but right now I am going to welcome back a longtime friend, right? We were just talking about how many years we've known each other and
in how many different roles.
And always, I will say this, Jane Oates, a mentor, a friend, an incredible resource for me over the years. So now I get to publicly say thank you.
Back at you.
For being there. Jane Oates is now with Working Nation. Prior to that, holy cow, we first met, you were the senior advisor to Senator Ted Kennedy on workforce issues and youth, and your passion and his passion really moved a lot of workforce development activities. You have been the commissioner of the New Jersey Higher Education Commission. You have been the Assistant Secretary for Employment and Training, and began it all in the classroom.
That's exactly right.
Teaching, right?
That's exactly right, in Philadelphia and Boston.
Oh my gosh. Did you gain more patience in working with all of us, or did you hone your teaching skills by working with some of us?
Well, I used to say that the Senate reminded me a lot of a middle school. So it was an easy transition.
Hey, talk about Working Nation, how it came about, and your role there, the work that you guys are involved in, you all are involved in.
Yeah, so I'm the president of Working Nation, a nonprofit media entity founded by a philanthropist, Art Bilger, to really just look at the intersection of education and training and work, and then back to education and training and back to better work, right? So it's been such a great place for me because I get to tell the stories of all of you who taught me about workforce. So it really is. I go back and see a lot of the same people that we talked to in the 90s and the early 2000s that were heading workforce boards. Oh, that's right, that was you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that was you. But it's so great to see the incredible growth, the way they've adapted and pivoted with a changing economy. I mean, remember when I was at Labor, it was the Great Recession. We never thought we'd see anything like that again. And oh, hello, then we had COVID. So, Working Nation has been able to tell some of the stories of the resiliency of the public workforce system and some of the challenges that they have as we really look at trying to get people back to work.
I think I want to talk to you more about the challenges that you see. Working Nation worked with us to produce the video on what is a workforce board, which was fun to do. I got to work with Joan. My favorite part of that was she created 30 and 30.
That's right.
Of course.
On ESPN.
We got to talk about baseball. So that was I was right there.
We have a great team. Melissa and Joan, Ramona. We have a great team.
So
small but mighty.
Part of Working Nation, you talked about we tell stories. What are some of the stories that you all are working on or you've worked on that you think this story was never told and it really does deserve to be told?
Well, right now we're in the middle of a green job story. So we're doing it state by state. Our state that we shared, Pennsylvania, was the first one out of the box, looking at what are green jobs, and more importantly, what are the adjacent jobs that, so you're going to be an accountant, you want to work for a green firm. What do you have to know that's different? Whether it's credits for solar panels, the energy that you get from solar panels, or whether it's how landscaping is changing. You have to understand that. So we have now done 6 states. We hope to do probably 20. We won't do all 50 because it'll get a little redundant. But we think that telling that story is really important. When I was at Labor, we gave out money for green jobs, and it was premature.
I was just going to ask you, are we almost seeing, or we're at the point where we're starting to see all of that nascent work that President Obama did, that you did. Many of us didn't understand, what are you talking about? And now it's really sort of making its way into all the sectors.
That's right. And we learned about it the hard way, right? We learned about the importance of clean water from the atrocities in Flint. You know, we look at what's a blue economy versus a green economy. So that's our fun thing. And then next we're going to we're in the embryonic stages of 2 projects. So we go from big to micro. We're going to look at what are the strategies in community college that are really moving the needle on the success of single moms. I mean, if we really want to break the cycle of poverty, we've got to make sure more single moms finish in 2 years and get their degree and can enter the workforce with some real earning power. And then we're going to look at a topic that's very near to my heart. You didn't say it, but I am a special ed teacher by training. So people with diverse abilities have always been of great interest to me. Instead of looking at a deficit, you look at an asset, and they have so much to offer, whether it's neurodiversity, physical diversity, learning diversity. So we're going to start a big campaign on that, and you will be shocked. I'll come back to you and we'll make sure NOB is involved. You'll be shocked at the employers who have very focused, targeted hiring practices to get people with disabilities, who right now have an 85% unemployment rate. Need talent, looking at...
Say that again.
85% unemployment rate in the community that self-identifies as having a disability. And we need to do something about that, A, because everybody deserves the dignity of work if that's what they're looking for, but B, we need talent, and we need all the talent off the bench.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because in our segments we've had Chris Laney from MZ Burning Glass talking about the demographic challenge that we're up against, and the former mayor of Indianapolis, Stephen Goldsmith, his new book, Building Fairly, was talking about transparency, that we have to convince people that single mom, that taking this course, getting this credential will actually benefit her, that it will actually be an advantage. And disabilities, that is part of that labor force that we're going to need to engage.
We need those million women back. Whatever the reason they're still not back in the workforce, we need to solve that problem. We need to solve for that, and then we need to get, I mean, there's so many populations, Ron, over the years we've talked about them. Young people, young black men. We need to really do targeted outreach to them. People coming out of incarceration, they paid their debt to society, ban the box, you know, and businesses have the power to do that today. They don't have to wait for permission.
Right.
We need all that talent, that incredible talent that's sitting there to get the women, the people of color, the people who had a blip in their record, we need them all back.
Reskilling the labor force is going to be a huge task. What do you see as the critical elements of that? I think we share this notion of we got to figure out how to pay for it. What are some of the other really important elements as we face this new sort of revolution in how we work and what work we do?
You know, Ron, you and I said it in the 90s. It begins and ends with the employer, right? And now the employer has to work with skilling partners, whether they're formal institutions or nonprofits, to really share the risk of the cost of that training. And you know, you see big employers stepping up, like the Walmarts, the Amazons, the Targets of the world. They didn't do it because it was a social good. They did it because it was a business imperative. And I think when you talk to small, medium, large businesses, they say the same thing. Talent is their number one issue. It's their number one confusion right now, because people are not staying in jobs. You know, people are leaving at a rate that's almost unprecedented, but they know that talent's their issue. If we go in there and say we can solve some of your talent problems, we can upskill your incumbent workers, we can help you discover those invisible talent pools that we were talking about before, whether they're the people we were talking about before or whether they're older workers. Let's get the invisible talent pools in the front of those, and they need to pay for it. I think that's the beauty of the talent finance model. Yes, we're looking at income share agreements. Yes, we're looking at risk sharing and more traditional loan programs, but we're also looking at how do you better use that education as a benefit that so many employers have offered for decades and has gone single digit use.
Yes.
You know, how do we make sure more people are using that? So let's take away them having to front end pay, but let's also take away the time element, and let's think about really being innovative, letting them be educated on the job. during their 40-hour work week. You and I, when we go to work, we have to learn a new software program. We do it there with people on the job, so we know how to do it. We don't have to do it. We don't have to drive somewhere to do it later. So let's be innovative. As you know, as we talk to our employer partners, giving somebody 3 or 4 hours a week on the job eliminates them having to go someplace. Let them learn there, and you see that they're learning. You see what they're like as learners, how interested and enthusiastic they are. I think it could change the world.
There's a lot of conversation around what might survive the pandemic, what do we look like as we come out of it. What's your gut sense on the mood across the country? Do you have a sense, do you feel a sense of optimism? Do you feel a sense of we're back, we're gonna make it?
You know, I think the pandemic had a horrible effect on people's outlook on life. It made, first of all, so many people lost a loved one, a friend, or whatever, you know. So I think that was really hard. But I think it just brought everybody front and center with their own sense of mortality. And so I think we have to put a lot more effort into mental health. I think there's lots of people walking around, business owners and employees, with a little bit of depression. And I'm not a clinical psychologist, so I'm not diagnosing, but I think we just need to be mindful. People are afraid. And now we have the ungodly, awful situation in Ukraine. You know, we're watching genocide every day, and it's frightening to people. So while I think people are, and I guess third to that would be inflation. You know, people here in the DC area are moaning about spending $4.50 for a gallon of gas. In California, it's $6 a gallon. So inflation is scaring people. All those savings that we did during the pandemic, they're kind of evaporating now as food and gasoline get more expensive. So I think cautiously optimistic. I think people really believe that jobs are coming back, that there is a job for them. I think people are a lot more able to look at alternative ways. They may not, clearly the numbers tell us they're not going the traditional route to 2 and 4 year colleges, but they're looking at things like online training differently now. So I think that's really good. I am not a believer that remote work is here to stay. I think all the things I said to you about people being unsure and a little nervous, we need a community. And I think lots of people are going to come back to work. We
saw the numbers during the pandemic. MZ Burning Glass and others pointed that out to us, the devastating impact of the pandemic on women, on neighborhoods of color, of different populations. Can we sustain the discussion about how to bring them closer into the economy, how we recover with all of us recovering?
Yeah, look, the murder of George Floyd brought a lot of inequities that have been with us forever to the surface. And lots of companies, mostly large companies, have stood up and said we're going to do more hiring, specifically of people of color, black and brown people. We need to hold their feet to the fire. You know, we need to make sure that that sentiment that came at such a great cost to the Floyd family doesn't go without our efforts to make sure it's true. So it's not about hiring. It's really easy. You know, bang, bang, bang. Hired 5 black people
especially
and 4 brown
if
people.
you're looking at skill-based.
That's right.
Let's do it there.
Yeah, I mean, but how do we make sure there's job mobility? How do we make sure that when those people come into a company, the culture of the company changes so that all ideas and flavors are welcome? And that's the harder part. So I think it's our job, Ron, to make sure that we hold people's feet to the fire. They made these commitments, they made these lofty speeches about how important diversity is, how diversity makes a business better. Good. Let's see how you're doing.
Let's see how
6
you're
months, a year. And I think, you know, things like 110, I have great hope in Maurice and what he's going to do with that. He's one to hold their feet to the fire, but we all have to do it. And I think smaller employers are going to see that, oh my God, of course I want to do this. I want to hire the people from my community.
Absolutely. And I am optimistic. I had a college professor who used to say that one of the jobs of higher education was to open the door to possibilities. And once that door was open, your mind could never close it. I am hoping that because we've had such at least the beginnings of an opening conversation around the inequities that we tolerated, that were so brought to the fore by the pandemic. I'm hoping that that's a door we can never close.
Amen.
That now we can move forward. I am more optimistic because Jane Oates is a part of that fight to make sure that door doesn't close. And Working Nation and the stories, and Jane, thanks for joining me.
We're going to keep telling them. Thank you, Ron. It was great, as always.
It's always good to be with you.
Hard not to kiss you.
Yeah.
On camera, no.
Well, the chords. Hey, you've been hanging out with us at Live from Forum 2022 from Washington, D.C., powered by the National Association of Workforce Boards. It's my pleasure to be your host for these conversations, and I want to again thank Jane Oates, a longtime friend and mentor and touch point for me. So I want to thank her, and I want to thank you for joining us, and I hope you join us for more segments on Live Forum 2022. Thanks for being with us.